whispered something in my ear, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not telling nobody.
Why you?
No, I'm saying.
Give me half the sentence.
But that was, he was like, the one thing he said was chill or else you ain't going to be able to.
Put the dot on your target, then you blow it.
Eazy-E might have seemed chill, laid back, soft-spoken, cool as ice, but don't get it twisted. Behind that calm vibe was a man deeply locked into the streets, and not the kind you mess with lightly. Zai wasn't just another rapper. He was the real deal with serious ties. So when Ed Lover tried to push his buttons, Eazy put him in check so hard that Ed still refuses to say what Eazy threatened him with. It all went down during an old school interview on Yo MTV Raps, back when Ed was running the show as the DJ. That moment, it's been echoing through hip-hop history ever since. Ed was just clowning around, playfully throwing his hand up toward Eazy-E. But to everyone watching, it looked like Ed was about to straight up slap Eazy, or at least fake it.
Easy, all right, man. KFC. Let's do this one. Oh, okay, I understand. Yo, let's go to.
But right after that move, Eazy leaned in real calm and whispered something in Ed's ear. And boom, the whole energy changed instantly. You could see it. Ed froze, dropped the joke on the spot, and switched the topic like nothing ever went down. Years later, Ed Lover finally opened up about that wild moment. He made it clear real quick. He wasn't trying to slap Eazy at all. Ed said that little hand move, it wasn't anything serious, just an inside joke he used to do with Stretch from Live Squad. They called it putting each other in the smash. So in Ed's mind, he was just playing around, thinking Eazy would get the joke. But clearly, Eazy wasn't feeling it, and neither were the fans. When Ed got asked what Eazy actually whispered in his ear that made him switch up so fast, he kept it locked, wouldn't say a word. But later in another interview, Ed let something slip, and that tiny hint was all fans needed to connect the dots. Whatever Eazy said, it came off real close to a threat, even though Ed tried to walk it back later, saying Eazy didn't really threaten him, just made it seem that way. Ed tried to brush it off later, saying it was just a wild joke. But most fans weren't buying that.
Gangster? I guess I was.
You were?
Yeah.
See, that's good.
Is that good?
That gives you credibility.
You ever anybody?
How many people you
It's about to say.
Whether he meant it to be playful or not, people who know Eazy's background don't think he would have let anything slide without making his point loud and clear. And let's be real, that wasn't out of character for Eazy at all. This wasn't just a one-time situation. Eazy had a reputation for making interviewers and hosts straight up nervous. One of the most legendary and jaw-dropping Eazy-E moments happened during an old NWA interview at their studio. It kicked off chill, everything smooth, everyone vibing. Then the interviewer dropped what seemed like a harmless question. How close are you to real life, to what your records are? Sounded innocent, right? But instead of playing it safe, Eazy answered in the most insane way possible. He straight up pulled out a machine gun, just held it up like it was nothing, laughing with his crew like he was showing off some fresh kicks. Total chaos. And nobody was ready for it. Fans who've seen that clip, they still talk about it like it just happened.
Whispered something in my ear, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not telling nobody.
Why you?
No, I'm saying.
Give me half the sentence.
But that was, he was like, the one thing he said was chill or else you ain't going to.
Some even swear there's a split second where Dr. Dre looks real uneasy. And if Dre was feeling the heat, just imagine what that poor interviewer was going through. Meanwhile, Eazy sat there cool as ice, like it was just another regular Tuesday. But that wild moment wasn't the only time Eazy-E had folks shook during interviews. There was another time he looked dead serious and said, "I make people buy records with a gun." Then came the follow-up.
Well,
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Maybe I could beat your ass.
I don't think you can beat by.
Are you packing?
You know karate?
How'd you make them buy with a gun? And the way Eazy answered, so casual, so calm, it had everybody sitting there confused. Was he playing or dead serious? With the kind of street rep Eazy had, fans figured he might have been half joking, but also half not. And of course, who could forget that legendary interview where he didn't hold back? Eazy just flat out said it. He was a gangster, and he wasn't hiding it.
The whistle. It's nothing but a straight beat. If we took that whistle out.
The The interviewer, maybe trying to be slick, or just plain bold, pushed the line and asked Eazy, "So how many people have you killed?" Without blinking, Eazy calmly answered, 7. Then came the next question. "Were you a gangster?" And Eazy hit back with a simple, "Yeah." Fans still debate that moment to this day. Some swear Eazy was just playing up the image for the cameras. But others, they think there was some real weight behind those words.
Lokes. Why do you know? It's very rare that anyone ever sees you without your lokes, like on television or on videos, or
Because even if Eazy wasn't the one pulling triggers, with the people he rolled with and the lifestyle he led, who's to say he wasn't deep in it? Then things took an even darker turn. The interviewer tried to joke, saying they could take Eazy. Eazy just looked at him and calmly said, "I don't think so." Then added, "I might know karate. I know crazy." Viewers later were quick to say that interviewer was messing with fire. And just when it couldn't get any more tense, Eazy dropped one more cold line. "I don't want to shoot you in the studio. I'd rather keep it in the streets." "Thank you, dude. I'll catch you on the streets." That's what Eazy said. And even after the cameras stopped rolling, the interviewers later admitted they were genuinely shaken. And yo, who could forget that wild moment during a Dr. Dre interview when Eazy just casually walked by in the background, holding an Uzi. No words, no context, just strolling through like it was a bag of chips in his hand.
No, don't do it. I know exactly what you're
Just on my eyes,
I'm not even wishing. I'm not even gonna. So simple.
But not every Eazy-E interview was all tension and threats. Some showed off a lighter, funnier side, where his natural charisma really came out. One moment fans still remember is when an interviewer asked why he always rocked shades. Instead of dropping a basic answer, Eazy flipped it into a joke. He told her he'd show her why, then took off his glasses and pulled that classic eyelid-flipping move like a straight-up prankster. And then, there was that other moment, when someone asked about his song, Real Nicks, and why they chose that word.
Called Real Nick. Why do you guys call yourself this?
Give ourselves that name. People been calling us for years, and so we carry that word. But right now, the word is like saying home.
Coming from a non-black interviewer, it could have turned real awkward real quick. But Eazy? He didn't snap or get defensive. Instead, he kept it cool and broke it down real smooth, explaining what that word meant inside black culture and why it held weight for them. No drama, just facts. Eazy also had moments where he opened up about deeper stuff, like violence and the true meaning behind that gangster mindset. He made it clear the music wasn't about hyping up violence. It was about showing the real struggles folks were living through in places like Compton. Now one of the most unforgettable interviews? That's when Eazy spoke on Suge Knight. Calm as ever, barely raising his voice, he called out Suge and Dr. Dre, accusing them of plotting to tear down Ruthless Records. Eazy, calm as ever, dropped a cold, chilling line. "We're going to come out fully loaded." Can you imagine being the interviewer in that moment? Just sitting there, realizing you were smack in the middle of one of hip-hop's most dangerous beefs ever? To really feel the weight of that moment, you gotta rewind and look at the deep-rooted drama between Eazy-E and Suge Knight. This wasn't just some industry trash talk or rap battle vibes. This was the type of beef where things actually got violent. Rumor even has it, Zai once wanted to take care of Suge himself, but folks around him convinced him to fall back.
Right now, because they're trying to blame a lot of violence on rap, which violence would be here if rap wasn't here anyway, you know. It's an individual, I think it is, a person. Gangster rap, I guess it's like telling the real and not holding back, giving up, the reality.
The heat between them had been building since the early NWA days, when cracks in the crew's unity started showing. And at the center of a lot of that tension, Jerry Heller. Things were messy, and that split opened the door for even bigger chaos. From Dr. Dre's point of view, their manager Jerry Heller was playing dirty, using divide and conquer tactics to keep the group off balance. He put all his energy into Eazy-E, making the rest of NWA feel like background players. Instead of looking out for everybody, it looked like Heller was only riding for Eazy, and that built up a whole lot of resentment. To make it worse, whispers started spreading about how Eazy and Heller were handling the money. Dre and the DOC felt like the cash wasn't adding up, and they definitely weren't seeing their fair share. That's when Suge Knight stepped into the mix. Dre and the DOC sent Suge to check out what was really going on with Eazy's side of the business, thinking something shady was happening behind closed doors.
Right. What were some of the incidents that, I mean, didn't you come home one time and found out that your house was broken into?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff missing, and on the wall was spray painted, on the mirror in one of the bedrooms was spray painted, "Payback's a mother Jerry," or "Payback's a Jerry." You know, one of those things. I always felt that...
But when nothing changed, Dre and the DOC were done. They went straight to Zai, asked to be released from their contracts, but Zai wasn't budging. He shut it down. And that move, it only turned the pressure up. So since Suge couldn't touch Eazy directly, he went after the people around him. Suge and his crew pulled up on Jerry Heller and demanded Dre's contract, face to face. Mob James, who used to roll with Suge's crew, said it plain. When they pressed Jerry, he froze up like he saw a ghost, just stuck in that seat, straight up paralyzed with fear. And that wasn't even the end of it. Right after that wild contract stunt, Jerry's house got broken into. A few things went missing, but that wasn't the worst part. Someone spray painted a threat right on his bathroom mirror.
Last time I ever saw my client, there was a picture of him holding up 2 severed heads. He was in his uniform, so, he was one of those crazy Israeli,
There wasn't any hard proof it was Suge, but Jerry was convinced. In his mind, there was no doubt who was behind it. From that moment on, Jerry was on edge. Just hearing Suge's name was enough to have him shook. Meanwhile, things at Ruthless Records were starting to fall apart, and the heat Suge was applying wasn't slowing down. That's when Eazy and Jerry made a major move. They brought in serious muscle. A guy named Mike Klein. Not just some regular bodyguard. This dude was ex-Israeli Special Forces. They weren't playing around anymore. Klein was on a whole other level. Jerry's cousin, Gary Ballin, said the first time he even saw Klein was in a photo. Dude was holding up 2 severed heads. Yeah, it was that real. Klein rolled with a squad of hardcore ex-military types, and they instantly became Ruthless Records' new security team. Straight up army dudes. Eazy loved it. He was all in on that Rambo, no-nonsense vibe Klein brought to the table. Hand-to-hand combat? Klein was a beast. Guns? A marksman, deadly accurate. One of Eazy's other bodyguards, a guy named Animal, admitted he didn't think much of Klein at first, but that opinion flipped real fast. Animal said Klein never missed a single bullseye at the range and always rocked this creepy little smile, even when stuff got heavy. That quiet, calm vibe, it somehow made him even more terrifying.
He was like, head of the security for Ruthless and stuff, man, telling I was checking him out and stuff like, man, this guy don't look like he too much of nothing, man. But boy, was I wrong.
Word is, Klein didn't just stand in the background. Nah, he confronted Suge Knight straight to his face. One version says Klein told him flat out, if you show up uninvited again, you're leaving in a box. Another version, even crazier. He supposedly threatened to chop Suge up and dump the pieces in dumpsters all over the city. Either way, the message hit loud and clear. Suge wasn't welcome. At all. Once Klein and his elite crew came on board, Suge's grip started slipping. But truth is, even before Klein showed up, Zai already had serious protection. He was always rolling with real hitters, like the Samoan twin brothers, Jacob and John Toyo. These dudes weren't just security. They were loyal, respected, and dangerous. Known in the streets, and not the type to mess with. They were the ones who rushed Zai to the hospital when he got sick in '95, and they even served as his pallbearers. That shows just how deep the bond ran. With soldiers like that around him, Suge had zero room to move in. Eazy's defenses were locked in tight, so tight that Suge had to switch up and play dirty.
Jail and did time and this and that, and ain't never been to jail.
Nigga, Drake did time. He did time.
What kind of time he did?
Time with the wrecking crew.
That's right.
Word on the street is, Suge threatened Eazy using the one thing he knew would hit hard, his mother. and that hit home. That's what finally made Zai give up Dre's contract. But here's the crazy twist. Some folks believe it was Jerry Heller who gave Suge the address to Eazy's mom. Probably during one of those panic moments when Jerry was desperate to get Suge off his back. Even if that's true, it didn't stop Eazy from firing shots. And he kept them coming at Suge and Dre, especially during interviews. But Dre wasn't the only NWA member catching heat. Way before their feud blew up, Eazy-E was already throwing shade at Ice Cube. Their split was one of the first big cracks in NWA's unity, and Eazy wasn't shy about it. He called out Cube in interviews and went straight for the throat in his music. Ice Cube took plenty of heat, especially from Eazy's infamous diss track, Real Motherfucking G's. Man, Eazy didn't hold back at all. He aimed direct bars at Ice Cube saying, "You just an actor who mastered the banging slang and the mindset of Compton, Watts, and South Central? Never once ran with the turf, but in every verse, claim you used to do the dirt. But who's a witness to your work?" Brr. Most fans know the backstory. Cube left NWA in '89 over money issues. He felt he wasn't getting paid right for all the writing he did on the Straight Outta Compton album. That fallout, it got ugly. So bad, it even pulled in folks who had nothing to do with the drama in the first place.
My hair, and started slamming me up against the wall. It's a painful.
One big example, Dee Barnes. She was a host on Fox's Pump It Up, a hip-hop show that brought on the biggest rappers in the game. But Dee's name got pulled into the beef heavy, especially when Dr. Dre attacked her. Years later, Eminem even mentioned it in Guilty Conscience. But let's rewind and break down how Dee ended up caught right in the middle of all that chaos. By the time the Ice Cube beef really exploded, Dee Barnes had already interviewed NWA multiple times. She knew the crew, had covered their rise on Pump It Up for years, so she wasn't some random face in the room. But once Cube dipped, the vibe completely changed. NWA clapped back at him hard with their track 100 Miles and Running, sending a loud message. They weren't about to let him just walk off without catching heat. According to Dee herself, when she brought the group back on Pump It Up to talk about their next moves, the tension was heavy from the jump. Every single question she asked ended up turning into a diss aimed at Cube. It got so heated that the production team had to cut out some of the more brutal parts just to keep the interview TV friendly. But here's where things really flipped. When the episode aired, it didn't just show the NWA segment, it also included a clip from an earlier shoot on the set of Boys in the Hood with Yo-Yo, Cube's friend and close collaborator. Then, bam, Ice Cube popped up out of nowhere. He crashed the interview and used that moment to flip NWA's own lyrics against them, throwing shade right back. And to make it even messier, Cube clowned the DOC, who was tight with Dre, after his tragic car crash left him with permanent voice damage. For the record, even back then, Dee Barnes said she didn't think they should have aired that segment, but as just a presenter, she didn't have the final say when it came to the editing room. Sadly, the final cut sensationalized everything by playing both clips back to back. And after Ice Cube's fiery interview aired, Dee looked into the camera and casually said she's always in the middle of controversy. Now that was probably just her trying to ease the tension in the moment, but the way it was edited, it made her look like she was stirring the pot, egging on the beef between Ice Cube and NWA, like she was placing herself right in the center of it all. After that whole interview mess, time passed. But eventually, Dee and Dr. Dre crossed paths again at a Def Jam Records party. Dre, reportedly drunk and still heated about how the situation had been portrayed, snapped. According to Rolling Stone reporter Alan Light in his article, Beating Up the Charts, Dre flew into a blind rage. He allegedly grabbed Dee by her hair and began slamming the right side of her body and head against a brick wall again and again near the stairwell. A shocking and brutal scene that stunned everyone. One of Dre's bodyguards held the crowd back with a gun, making sure no one could step in to stop what was happening. Dre then tried to throw Dee down the stairs but couldn't pull it off. Undeterred, he started kicking her, hard, in the ribs and hands. She managed to break free and ran into the women's restroom, but Dre followed her in. He grabbed her by the hair again and punched her in the back of the head while she was down. This brutal attack didn't stay in the shadows. People talked. And shockingly, some in NWA didn't just defend him, they justified it. In later interviews, MC Ren bluntly said, "She deserved it." Eazy-E doubled down, saying, "Yeah, had it coming. That's what she gets." Even Dre himself didn't show remorse. He told reporters, "People talk all this ish, but you know, somebody mess with me, I'm gonna mess with them. I just did it. Ain't nothing you can do now by talking about it. It ain't no big thing. I just threw her through a door." Dee Barnes ended up suing Dre for $22.75 million, but the case was eventually settled out of court. Still, the damage had been done. Now imagine being a journalist or interviewer, sitting across from any of them after that incident. You can bet the tension was thick. Folks were probably holding their breath, hoping not to push the wrong button and end up like Dee. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next deep dive. More wild hip-hop history is on the way,